My name is Brian Dean. I'm the Director of Energy Transition at Sustainable Energy for All, and really thankful for you to join us here for this session on energy efficiency and how energy efficiency is really helping and can help to power the energy transitions. For those of you that don't know mission efficiency, this is a story that started about 9 years ago. In 2014, there was a series of connected but separate initiatives that were started. One was the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency, one was the SE for All Energy Efficiency Accelerator Platform, and one was the Energy Efficiency in the Emerging Economies Program at the International Energy Agency. Those all started at the same time, much thanks to the Danish government, in fact, who helped seed each of those, but also the European Commission and other partners that have come in through the years, including the Global Environment Facility that helped support a big chunk of the energy efficiency accelerators. Now, that was the start. In 2019, there was an effort to bring those efforts together under a collective program, and that was at the Climate Action Summit. It was launched as the 3% Club. Now, 3% Club, it showed the ambition. We want 3% rate of improvement in energy efficiency, but it sounded very technocratic. It sounded very exclusive. It didn't sound like what we know needs to get done for energy efficiency. So it was rebranded to Mission Efficiency. So what you see now, which is an inclusive, hopefully very intuitive title. We understand that we have a mission together that is to increase the efficiency around the world, to support the energy transitions and support climate goals, support achieving SDG 7.3. And doing that under three main pillars: elevate energy efficiency. A lot of people don't understand energy efficiency. They think about it as being something that's just about saving energy. Well, it's not that. It's about more. It's about bringing more jobs. It's about having more comfort. It's about having better lives. Supporting energy efficiency. This is what our partner base has been doing for decades, in fact. Technical assistance and providing support to make sure that the right policies are put in place and that the right financing mechanisms are put in place, which of course leads to investment. Good support actually induces investment, but we recognize that investment in energy efficiency is lagging. And so we have a specific pillar within mission efficiency that looks to induce or is inducing investment in energy efficiency, primarily through what's now being called the Mission Efficiency Marketplace, which identifies projects, de-risks them, and matches them with funders. So under that overall premise, I welcome you here to join this discussion. We've got a really good panel of speakers to talk about this story of energy efficiency and how we can together make further progress. So first, hand it over to Elizabeth, who will introduce our keynote. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Brian, for that amazing start, and thank you all for finding the room again. I'm sure a few more people will be coming in. As mentioned, I'm Elizabeth Wangeshi Shege, Energy Efficiency and Cooling Specialist at SE for All, focal point for Kenya. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce and invite Her Excellency, the Ambassador for Kenya to Austria, Ambassador Mary Mugwanja, who's going to give us a keynote around energy efficiency. And I think the triple bottom line is actually to say we're here to have more action. So thank you. Please to come on board.
Thank you so much, Brian and Elizabeth, for the introduction. Excellencies, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to address this distinguished gathering at this side event, which is happening at the margins of the International Vienna Energy and Climate Forum. I extend my gratitude to the organizers, esteemed guests, and participants who have convened here to champion this vital cause of energy efficiency. You'll excuse me, I have a cold. This is not the normal way I speak. As we stand at the crossroad of a climate critical era, energy efficiencies emerges not just as an option, but as the linchpin in achieving our climate, energy, and developmental aspirations. It is the lever that propels us towards a future where economic development, energy access, environmental stewardship coexist in synergy. Energy efficiency is not merely a pathway to mitigate climate change. It is a conduit of new investments, market creation, job opportunities, and improved standards of living. It's imperative that urgent measures be taken to effectively cushion Africa's people, their livelihoods, economies, and communities, and rapidly eradicate their vulnerability. At the recently concluded Africa Climate Summit that was held in Nairobi, Kenya, the African leaders stressed on the importance of decarbonizing the global economy for equality and shared prosperity. The leaders also called for investment to promote the sustainable use of Africa's natural assets for the continent's transition to low-carbon development and contribution to global decarbonization. It is for this reason that accelerating progress in energy efficiency is paramount, as it is the most cost-effective resource to achieve climate, energy, and development goals. The government of Kenya recognizes the need to catalyze efforts in energy efficiency and joined the Mission Efficiency Ecosystem back in 2019 when it was called 3% Club, and further the pledge to the updated brand on mission efficiency in 2022 at the Sustainable for All Forum in in Kigali, Rwanda. Actions towards progress include Kenya's Vision 2030, which sets out a long-term development blueprint aiming to transform Kenya into a newly industrialized middle-income country, providing a high quality of life to all its citizens in a clean and secure environment. Over and above that, the government of Kenya has put in place other favorable policies and regulatory frameworks for energy provision and energy efficiency, including, but not limited to, Kenya National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Strategy and Implementation Plan, Energy Appliance, Energy Performance and Labeling Regulation 2016, Energy Management Regulations 2012, Energy Management Standards 2018, National Cooling Action Plan, and National Climate Change Action Plan. We've also made very great progress towards achieving universal access to electricity, doubling electricity access from 32%, please note 32%, in 2013 to 75% in 2022. 75%, it might appear significant, but you can imagine in this time and era, 25% of 56 million Kenyans have no access to electricity. So it looks good, but we still have a long way to go. Further action means translating the enabling environment to tangible outcomes. For example, the launch of lighting pilot project for 100 secondary schools in Kenya during the Africa Climate Summit. a project that was showcased further by partners in the session that will impact our young boys and girls attending secondary schools across 13 counties. Allow me to mention that Kenya has a devolved system of government. It has one national government and 47 county governments. So this 13 is out of 47. You can imagine we still have a long way to go. Such a project will not only impact the students and teachers, but the local community that will use the same infrastructure and resources during school holidays. We expect to have more partners on board in such projects as public buildings and institutions such as hospitals, clinics, universities, primary schools are low-hanging fruits for immediate gains in accessing or achieving more with energy efficiency. Imagine hospitals without electricity. This is where the rubber meets the road, shifting the narrative to benefits, experiences, and improving livelihoods through energy-efficient lives. Opportunities in Kenya include energy efficiency services, data collection through audits, upgrading technical assistance, innovative finance, and we are all ready to work with you. With the ambition to support Kenya's climate goals, Kenya has a draft energy transition and investment plan to be launched at COP28 that plans to leverage on the vast potential of establishing local green manufacturing and developing low-carbon technologies to boost industrialization, create jobs, and spur economic growth while protecting our environment. The Energy Transition and Investment Plan is not just a plan, but a beacon guiding Kenya towards a prosperous and sustainable future where energy efficiency and green growth opportunities, such as carbon markets, green hydrogen, and green manufacturing, reinforce economic development. It aligns with our long-term low emissions strategy and harmonizes our energy sector's roadmap, considering the intricate balance of socio-economic impact and capital mobilization. The consultative process that birthed the ETIP is as diverse as it is inclusive, engaging various government ministries, state departments, and local governments. The collaborative effort underscores our resolve to frame an energy transition that underpins green growth and equitable development. Finally, I'd like to invite the global community to collaborate in unlocking affordable, accessible finance, especially for energy efficiency in Africa. In closing, I thank you once again for your commitment and engagement. I wish us all a productive and transformative session. And as we say in Kenya, in Swahili, asanteni sana, thank you very much.
Where's that button? Thank you very much. So we have this fantastic wireless system. I'd like to, following those fantastic keynote remarks, the call to action, to call in the panelists, because you've heard about the enabling environment that Kenya is providing, so that we can speak to the collaborative efforts we can actually have under mission efficiency ecosystem. To start off with, I'd like to invite Mr. Hubert Zayan, Assistant Manager, Energy Efficiency Regulation, Energy Commission Ghana, to join us here. Please pick any seat. And then I'll ask Mrs. Karine Reis, Project Manager at UNIDO. Thank you. Miss Elizabeth Resch, Senior Advisor, UNEP Triple C. Thank you. And Mr. Jens Jäger, Director of Policy and Business Development Alliance for Rural Electrification. I hope you can see him from there. I will come and, sorry. We'll have a microphone. So we had fantastic sessions earlier today. I think Mr. Jans, thank you. We had fantastic sessions earlier today where we spoke about policy, and we had from different governments as well, where we have the mission efficiency ecosystem. We moved on to talk about opportunities around investment. So for this afternoon, I'd really like to bring in the conversation around collaboration, and not just theoretical, active collaboration, especially going up to COP28 in a couple of weeks, or a few weeks to come. So starting with Mr. Hubert, please do tell us the ambitions and long-term strategies in Ghana that we've seen quite a lot in the systems, in the social media. We've seen action on the ground. We've seen the president speaking to some of this. Please bring them to the forefront. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and acknowledging the Honorable Minister as well, and thank you for the opportunity. I think Ghana, Sub-Saharan Africa, has taken a very bold step in terms of championing energy efficiency. And when I say this, it means that we are looking at not just reinventing the wheel, but also learning from best practices. So as far back as 2005, Ghana started its journey towards energy efficiency with regulations on lighting and air conditioners. And in 2008, we also prohibited the importation of used obsolete appliances, cooling appliances, as must say, and then incandescent lamps. Predominantly in Africa, and Ghana in particular, a lot of the utilities, are being pressured because the equipments that we have are used obsolete appliances. So there was the need to find a way of transitioning, consumers to save some money in their pockets, because they didn't understand what it meant by energy efficiency. All they know is that this equipment is cheap, it can serve my purpose. And so what is the need to go in for another equipment which is brand new but very expensive? So that education awareness kept on growing, and we found a way to also scale up these regulations, also because of technology. Now, these are initiatives by the regulator. It is not possible without the buy-in from leadership or government. And as you recently saw, the president launched the energy transition, document, which was also led by C4All, and we appreciate you for that. For the president to be very much involved in this shows that the blessing has been given to be very innovative, to find means of us meeting all this transition. So as we speak, Ghana has come up with standards and labeling for appliances on about 19 appliances, right from the kitchen to industry, where we have electric motors and distribution transformers also included, and then also now trying to find incentive methods. How do we support people to be able to uptake this? So basically, this is what we have done. There is a lot to be discussed in terms of opportunities of what this means for other countries. We have gone a step ahead to also introduce verification methods of testing. So Ghana now has the refrigerator and air condition testing facility, which we are also able to use to verify the efficiency level of these equipment. So the major thing is also the incentive. After doing all of these policy documents, what does it mean for the consumer? How is he able to get these products? Because that will come at a cost. So we have examples of rebates that we have done, set up energy efficiency rebates, where people turn in their old obsolete appliances for a coupon to be able to purchase a new one. In the case of CFLs and LEDs, which are not that expensive, the government has invested in doing free replacement to institutions, public institutions, and all of that. And then finally, we have also come up with this on-wage financial mechanism, which is called the eco-fridges. that is also supposed to support salaried workers to be able to get these high efficient products at a flexible payment plan. And so this is on the wage of these consumers. So I think for now, I will pause here, and exciting stories that we can share from Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hubert. That definitely shows elements around raising ambition around Africa on energy efficiency and being very proactive as a regulatory authority. I'd like to move on to Mrs. Karen on the potential for mission efficiency initiative to support progress, but also to add examples of successful collaboration supporting the progress, especially in industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone. Always challenging to have the first session after lunch, so it's great to see so many joining us. I think speaking after Hubert is always great, because Ghana always being such a shiny example on energy efficiency, championing energy efficiency in Africa. But maybe to come to your first question, UNIDO is a partner of Mission Efficiency, and we do really think it's one of the initiatives that can really drive progress, because we see that countries do take actions and they have gone far, like in the case of Ghana. But there are so many countries that could benefit from all these lessons learned, from all these experiences, from all the great toolkits and lessons learned and have been made around over the past decades. I would say that we have really pushed, or trying to push, for energy efficiency. And I think this is really the big added value of mission efficiency. If we want to take these actions to scale and to achieve those targets that we like to publish, I would say, then we really have to build on partnerships. I know we say this a lot, but I think mission efficiency is one of these initiatives that really live or walk the talk. And I think we have several very good examples of outcomes of mission efficiency collaborations, especially in industry, for example, where UNIDO works. Mission efficiency really works hard on changing these narratives. So for industries, when we work on industrial energy efficiency, it's still very often perceived as a costly investment, rather than an investment that makes you more competitive in your national and international market. So changing this narrative, I think, is one of the really big success factors of mission efficiency. And in the industrial space, it was extremely important that we have this. But not only in the industrial space, also when we talk about energy efficiency in the cooling space, everybody thinks it's super technical, but it's changing lives, and it's changing health. It's changing post-harvest losses through cold chains, through storing, through storage facilities for vaccines, etc. So it's really that, I think, that aspect that mission efficiency is doing extremely well. One successful outcome, for example, is a toolkit. Another toolkit, but that one, I promise you, is really a great one because it combines all the others that have been around. It's a web-based toolkit that helps countries to identify priority sectors for energy efficiency. And we have developed this under the umbrella together with C4All and other mission efficiency partners. Also a project that we've been doing since a few years under mission efficiency, funded by the UK government, was to support a number of countries to identify these priority sectors. Now in the second phase, for example, with Kenya, with Vietnam, and with some other countries, we are already developing industrial roadmaps, decarbonization roadmaps, advancing more and more into very clear actions. So I think just for the beginning, I'll stop here. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And explaining and showcasing the action that we've had on the ground. I'll now move on to Mrs. Elizabeth Risch from UNEP CCC. I know I receive a lot of your emails since we have the same first name or similar. What is mission efficiency doing to mobilize energy efficiency finance? And we can speak more towards the countries where we've seen action as well.
That's right. Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here and speak also on behalf of mission efficiency. I can only join Karen in second what she said about the value of partnerships. So as Madam Excellency has already mentioned, in Kenya a lot of work has been done, and this has really accelerated the speed that I don't normally see without these partners. Mission efficiency has a lot of partners in the financial space, in the energy efficiency space, policymakers, and of course climate ambitious countries. And it's this kind of partnership that has allowed us to achieve what has been achieved in Kenya. In Kenya, we started working on and supporting the country in the Kenya energy efficiency and conservation strategy that the Madam Ambassador already mentioned. That was the UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center where I worked. But the progress we have made since was thanks to partnerships with mission efficiency, because we have moved on to the implementation side, and you, Elizabeth, have worked on that. We have gotten funding, generous funding from the Signify Foundation in the form of equipment to put lighting into 100 schools in Kenya. And this is to be a pilot project to be extended then to overall 4,000 schools in Kenya. We have also learned this week that our center has gotten funding from Belgium to do a market study for ESCOs, thereby offering support to the super ESCO that Kenya is planning, and it's one of the core parts of its energy efficiency strategy. So I think that's just showcases, that's the sort of partner value of a partnership where you can bring different capabilities together. So fundraising capabilities from some people, politically willingness and support from the country, support from SE4All on breaking down energy efficiency into implementable and sector-based action items. I think that's what for us has really showcased how mission efficiency is working well. And we would like to invite you to join us. So mission efficiency is if you or your organization have energy efficiency at the core of your mission, then please join us, because we want to widen the net. We want to enrich the initiative with other organizations' capabilities. And we want to work more on replicating in other countries what has been done in Kenya, what has been done with UNIDO. That's what we would like to do. Should I speak more to the... I'll go on. I can speak more to the task forces later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can see the amount of passion we have from the mission efficiency ecosystem. And also, as you had from the keynote speech, there's a lot more to do. So definitely we do need more collaborators on board. I'd like to move on to Mr. Jens Jäger, where we're going to talk about the role of energy efficiency in improving modern energy uses and flexibility of the grid. So we've talked about equipment, the industry, some programs, and now we're moving on to the grid. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. So my name is indeed Jens Jäger. I'm working with the Alliance for Rural Electrification, ARE. ARE is a global business association with around 200 members worldwide, working on improving access to electricity and electrification with renewables. In particular, on grid efficiency, we manage an initiative called GEAR, which stands for Grid Efficiency and Resilience Initiative. GEAR focuses on supporting grid efficiency, especially in Africa. It does so through 3 types of work. Number 1, policy support. So how do we adapt policies to integrate modern grid transformers, modern components in grids and electricity systems? The second thing is uptake of what's called the MEPS, so minimum energy performance. Some countries in Africa, like Egypt, already have integration of such performance standards, but not everyone. And then third part of the policy puzzle is mitigating grid losses, so there are also certain IEC standards on that. Then the fourth component of the policy part is how do we integrate distributed renewables? So for example, renewable energy mini-grids with the grid. You will have success cases, for example, in Uganda, in Nigeria, in Cambodia, on integrating mini-grids with the main grid, and as a way to to improve its efficiency. So part one, policy. Part two, capacity building. We train practitioners, we train utilities and engineers that can then be employed by private sector companies or in government institutions. And then number three, and this is where the link with mission efficiency is on finance and access to finance. So we do early stage feasibility studies and work with governments and utilities on that. And then the idea is that these projects can feed into the larger mission efficiency portfolio, which can take projects to a higher level and aggregate them. So that's really in a nutshell what ARE does and how GEAR as a specific initiative feeds into that mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Just coming back to you before we do the loop again, what would be needed to really accelerate and expand this initiative?
So we're at a relatively early stage. We started the initiative this year in terms of implementation. And so what we're looking for now, on the one hand, are more government partners. We have a few focus countries, but if there are governments in the audience who think, okay, this resonates well with us, we'd be happy to talk. Secondly, of course, we as an association have an industry angle. So any industry partners here in the room that think the mission of ARE makes sense, happy to speak as well. And then last part is obviously on the investment front, where we're collaborating with mission efficiency. All kinds of investors are welcome to come and talk to us. We need multiple types of capital depending on the stage of the project.
Thank you for that. And as we note that we're heading towards COP28, I wanted to just bring in that both G20 countries and the COP28 UAE presidency, they're both calling for doubling the rate of improvement in energy efficiency by 2030. What would a global agenda to implement such commitments look like for you, starting with Mr. Hubert?
Yeah, so thank you very much. I think that is quite ambitious, also looking at the setting we are coming from, that is Africa. But it also means that we need to be able to move people along this vision. And what I keep on pushing about is the platform to be able to get champions to move the others. It looks like you have people who play the wait and see attitude. Well, is it possible for us to do it? It's not possible. So you have the naysayers who keep on saying this. But then you also have others who have decided to take the bull by the horn and say, it is doable, let's try it. Now, once you try it, in the case of Ghana, there are backlashes that will come. And I can tell you that the efficiency regulation we have passed for air conditioners is already getting backlash from industry. It is getting backlash from importers and consumers, trying to convince consumers that these are going to be very expensive and you cannot afford it. The government is not being sensitive. So you need to find a way of maneuvering out of all of this. You have come up with a standard that has set the efficiency high to be able to achieve this target. Yet you have industry players who still want to sell the low efficient products because they are making profits. And they have the capacity to create awareness, unlike the government who is waiting for a budget to be approved. And once they get the lead and they keep on pushing the message about costs, then you are going to fail even with such a beautiful policy that you have. So I would keep on saying that let's create the platform to be able to share the experiences, to be able to pull others along the board, to be able to get what we call institutional collaboration. And anytime I see Karen, I remember the first, incident that UNIDO invited Ghana to Sakri and Iakri to say, look, we want to do something enlightened. We know Ghana, you have taken the lead. Can you share some experience? And once Ghana shared this experience, there were typical questions that was born on cultural experiences, that you would not find in any book. So when it comes to enforcement, what does it mean? You have detained substandard products. the chief in the village has called to say, look, these items belong to an elder. Can you release the consignment? How do you go about it? Or you have a call from the ministry that says, well, can you let this cargo go? You know, it's not the situation in Europe. So there are peculiar issues that happen in Africa that we can share our stories amongst ourselves, how we have crossed these hurdles. And I think once we keep on doing that, others will see that, yes, it's doable. Now I'm proud to see that Iakri and Sakri have gone ahead. They've taken the lighting by storm, and we hope that they will be able to cross the next barrier, which is on enforcement. So I applaud the decision, which is a laudable call, clarion call, but we need to create the avenue to be able to draw others on board. It's not just 1 or 2 countries that can do it. It's collective. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And very much the same question to Mrs. Karin from the UNIDO front. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe just to continue from what Hubert mentioned, I think what we have managed in the energy access space is probably what we also need to manage in the energy efficiency space. I remember when we were talking about the first mini grids, etc. Nobody is questioning this anymore. It's been taken to scale. It's commercialized. It's rolled out in so many countries. And energy efficiency, I still feel we are very spot. It's a project by project, country by country. We haven't really managed to take these things to scale through this regional collaboration, for example, that we are doing in some of the African regions where the regional economic communities are taking this coordinative role in EIC, in the ECOWAS, and that's where it's so good to have these champions that are driving, because for Ghana it's also important that Togo is on board, that Cote d'Ivoire is on board. These are all traded goods. A refrigerator doesn't come straight into Ghana necessarily. It comes through borders. So it's very important that there is this regional coordination, harmonization of policies, which then creates a market which makes efficient products affordable through economies of scale. So I think what we need to do is to follow a bit that energy access rail, I would say, and we have very good examples already. So it's not that we need obviously investments, innovation, and so on, it's always important, but there's so many examples of things that work. Technological solutions are there. And that leads me, because I always see Luc here in front of me from AFDB, that leads me to the final point I would like to make on financing. I think on energy efficiency, this particular issue of overcoming the upfront costs of investment in a technology is still a big bottleneck for investment, because it's, commercial financing is still overestimating risks, while there are so many good examples of how short a payback time in energy efficiency investment is. So I think these are some of the aspects, I think, where mission efficiency in particular can make maybe a stronger push to change that perception and to advance. And then I strongly believe it's possible, what we have on the agenda. Thanks.
Fantastic. So that's 2 out of 4 so far who said that it is possible. So moving on to Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you. I second the call for doubling the energy efficiency rate. What that means, according to the IEA, is that you triple investments into energy efficiency by 2030. If you do that, then you're on track for a net zero by 2050. So that's the challenge on the financing side. What I would like to see coming out of the COP would be that this energy efficiency agenda is raised in the political and financial agendas. What that could, for instance, be, I would very much like announcements like a multi-donor or a multi-bank de-risking facility, for instance, to sponsor energy efficiency investments in emerging and in developing countries. So the African Development Bank has been mentioned, could certainly be a lead in that, but I would also like to see the other multilateral development banks join in that and perhaps announce something that way. That would be on the wish list. Thank you.
Fantastic. And over to you, Mr. Jens.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, we believe in the possibility to achieve the mission as well. Our key target in ARE is electricity access for all and achievement of SDG 7 by 2030. So if I didn't believe in it, I probably wouldn't be the right person for this job. But yeah, so in terms of what has been said, fully agree with all of the things, and especially also on investment. I think one key element is also the packaging or marketing of energy efficiency, It, compared to electricity access or climate action, often it's harder to make the energy efficiency sell because it's less sexy. It provides a less tangible outcome. So I think that's also a key part of the equation. We need to have a smart way of marketing energy efficiency and showing the impact of energy efficiency on end users, on the ultimate beneficiaries, and then showing that to both public and private impact investors. So that's perhaps one thing I'd add to what has been already said.
Thank you very much for that. And what I'd like to ask is, for example, yes, we have fantastic world leaders here in front of us. If this was the situation at COP, what would you say to them about energy efficiency on the basis of world leaders and commitment moving forward? Perhaps in one sentence as a parting shot before we allow maybe a couple of questions in the session. Starting with Hubert, perhaps?
Yeah, so I would basically say it is established that energy efficiency is the first fuel. It is always better to look for the low-hanging fruits when you have a situation to deal with. And we think energy efficiency, demand-side management is more of a low-hanging fruit rather than investing in generating power, and then these are all wasted through transmission losses or demand-side losses. So I would like to urge the leaders that let's go for the low-hanging fruit, which is energy efficiency.
Thank you very much for that. So, Ms. Karine, please address our world leaders. Thank you.
Yeah, dear world leaders, I would say, I think I would be very short now. I would just say energy efficiency is not an option anymore. We sometimes still discuss it as an option we could eventually look at, or it's not. It's actually a must. And if we don't do it, we are not going to move like we all wish to move. And it's also not only these world leaders, basically, that wish to move, but each and every one who wants to, have a better life, actually. And I think this message needs to probably be carried out to these world leaders. Thanks.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
That's good. I would say energy efficiency is not an exercise in thrift. It's an experience in abundance. Abundance of emission cuts, abundance of air pollution improvements, more power for the same money, and more local jobs.
Thank you. Mr. Jens?
I'd say everyone has a limited budget, so make it count. And the best way to do so is the least cost option to achieve your objective, which is probably the energy efficiency angle.
Fantastic. I hope you're all convinced, although we've seen that a lot of people don't really take this up, and there's a great opportunity, especially in Africa, to have energy efficiency as the first fuel. And we have quite a bit to do towards COP. I'd like to open up for a couple of comments or questions from the floor. So we do agree that we're all going to go to COP28, and we have the mission efficiency message for energy efficiency. And we're all going to join the mission efficiency ecosystem. That's great. Very, very successful session from my point of view. Did I see a hand up there? Okay, so what I'll do, and probably put you on the spot, because a lot of people have mentioned Africa Development Bank. So maybe, Luke, you could tell us a little bit about the vision we have. Thank you, Brian. On what Africa Development Bank is actually doing on the basis of finance, from private sector, public as well. So a bit of action on that before we go into the closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. My name is Luc Tossou. So I worked at the African Development Bank as the principal energy efficiency specialist, and I'm based in Nairobi. So to address your question, I mean, before addressing your question, what I want to say is that when you were talking about energy efficiency, I think what is important that our government should understand is that energy efficiency is, as many of them have mentioned, is that energy efficiency first. I will say energy efficiency first. The reason why I'm saying this is I remember I worked for GIZ in Nigeria, and every time we go for meetings talking about energy efficiency, all these people, they will bring it to renewable energy, solar panels, and so on. And then we had to tell them at a certain point that actually you have to do energy efficiency first before even thinking about renewable energy. I mean, because you can't produce energy with renewable energy and then waste it. So that's the most important. And at the African Development Bank, we are really taking this seriously. I mean, since we have been also a member of this mission efficiency, and then we see the importance of changing the narrative. That's what we're trying to communicate to the country members, that when you're having an energy sector project, it's always good not just to focus the effort on generation, transmission, and so on, but you also have to look at the demand side aspect. So it's also, and the reason why we're saying that is that these countries, many countries, in terms of priority, energy efficiency is not a priority. If you want them, okay, where do you want to put your resources? It's mainly on generation, transmission, and then forgetting this. And what we're saying, I mean, you can have a small component, I mean, a component on energy efficiency where you're spending maybe 2 or 5% of the total on energy efficiency. I mean, if we start like that, I think it's a right step in the good direction, because at least it will serve as a proof of concept. So for what you're saying, we have the African Development Bank is leading a lot of initiatives on the continent, especially technical assistance initiative to help countries in identifying energy efficiency investment opportunities and providing them with grants, resources to prepare the project and bring them to bankability. So that's what the African Development Bank is doing in terms of technical assistance. So we have these programs where if countries want to, they have an idea of a program, an investment program that they want to implement, they can reach out to the African Development Bank, and then we see how we conduct the feasibility study, the initial, the baseline studies that are really needed to support the design and help them design the program. So that's what we do. And then once we do it, then you have after that the investment part. That's where when you get there, you see that people start dragging their feet because they don't want to put their, spend a lot of resources in there. But we do have these direct supports for investment using the bank resources, and it's also possible the bank has these climate funds where you can use concessional financing to blend with the resources, especially, for example, for on-bill financing appliances. We've just talked that energy efficient appliances, the initial cost is high. So we can use concessional financing to reduce the cost and then promote these energy efficient appliances. So same thing applies to energy efficiency in buildings. So what we are encouraging is that government, they also lead by example by investing in public buildings that consume a lot of electricity. So schools, hospitals, and public street lightings, and any other public infrastructure. So we're providing this direct support to countries to invest in these large-scale energy efficiency investment opportunities, and also for the private sector. So we're covering both sectors. So let me stop here, and if you have a follow-up question, I will be happy to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as Brian takes the mic towards the closing remarks, I'd like to thank you all, especially for a region where 80% of the buildings that will exist in 2050 haven't been built yet. You can see why energy efficiency is such a priority. because we don't want to come back, as mentioned earlier today, in 20, 30 years to Africa to try and resolve without having lessons learned. And also with the youthful population that's growing, there's going to be increase in electricity. So thank you. I'm passing over to Brian for closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, great. And first of all, thanks everyone for joining and staying. I want to maybe do the part that Elizabeth was saying that she wanted to talk about, which is, join us in mission efficiency. We're very inclusive, and there's no formal signing or anything like that. Join us in our task forces, create a new task force with us, work together with some of our partners. Really that it's that easy to get involved with mission efficiency. We do have 4 task forces right now, but probably growing a couple more in the near future. One of them is on the narrative of energy efficiency, and this is where that energy efficient life, this abundance and the power of energy efficiency, this is where this kind of narrative is coming from. We have a widening the net. This is saying, okay, we need banks on board, we need retailers on board, we need different people than the energy efficiency community to really come together. We have 2 task forces on investing in energy efficiency. One is the mission efficiency marketplace, which is, as mentioned earlier, looking to identify, de-risk, and match energy efficiency solutions. And one that's looking to replicate the great work by Carbon Trust and EBRD on the Green Technology Selector, and actually having a simple tool that banks and other investors can look at to identify what is an approved energy efficiency solution. So those are the 4 current task forces, and hopefully some of that resonates with you as to something that will make an impact moving forward. But as I said, we're happy to work on different areas. There's too much for any one organization to do, so we're very welcoming and looking forward to working with all of you, and of course your partners as well. So with that, thanks to the panel, thanks to Her Excellency, the Ambassador from Kenya, and thanks to all of you, and look forward to further discussions. Have a great day.